Hello world, and we are back. My name's Kyle Fischl. This is going to be episode 142 of my poker vlog. For this one, it's a Saturday night session, and at Sarasota, that means a lot of PLO double board bomb pots. If you're unable to play with me on the actual felt, I'm constantly on the virtual felt at Club GG. My club has a $1,000 free roll tournament every Thursday night, as well as $500 free roll tournaments on Saturdays. Free tournaments, free to enter. I'm in all of them, and I will see you there. And without further ado, let's roll the tape. So we arrive at Sarasota, Florida, the One-Eyed Jack's poker room, and the room is packed as there's a massive horse race going on. However, my table is somewhat short-handed. I buy into the game for $700 before I win the first small pot of the evening. Following that, on a 5-handed table, I'm technically under the gun. I raise to $15 with 9-10 of spades. Well, the button raises to 45. Not really going to give this too much credit, as it's technically like a cutoff first button, raise and 3-bet, but strangely enough, the small blind calls the 45 before the big blind goes all in for approximately $450. Well, I guess with this amount of action, I can't really see myself continuing, so I just let it go. End up getting it all in. Both of them have ace king, seems reasonable. The flop contained a 9 and no ace or king for the rest of the cards, so I would have stacked 2 players if I continue. However, 9-10 suited is not really a hand I'm going to call 4-bet jams with. Following that, we get moved to a somewhat more packed table. Here we're at a PLO double board bomb pot, 6-handed, $10 a piece, $60 in the middle. I look down at king, 9, 7 with suited spades. The top board comes jack 9, 7 rainbow. Bottom board comes ace, king, 10 rainbow. So we flop 2 pair on one board, second set on the other. Feels pretty good. When it checks to me, I'm going for some pot building. Have pretty strong pieces on both. I bet $50. 2 different players decide to call, so we're going 3 ways to a turn card, which is the ace of clubs on top and the 10 of clubs on bottom. So we fill up on bottom and get an overcard to the board on top. Plenty of 2 pairs beat my 2 pair. Not quite ideal, but with the exact boards, there's only one combination of pocket aces, one combination of pocket 10s. Otherwise, we have the bottom board pretty much locked up. So we're going to go for a second bet. This time 125. Hopefully just build the pot again. Go for a jam on the river. Possibly get people to fold the equity on the top board when we have the bottom board pretty confidently locked up. I make it $125. And both players decide to call a second time. So we're off to 2 rivers. The top board comes the 3 of diamonds, bottom board 3 of hearts, so a couple of 3s peel off. Doesn't change either board in the slightest. And if my opponent had quads, I probably would have heard about it by now, so we're just going to go all in, hopefully steal the equity from the top board my opponents may have, as 2 pairs not necessarily the best hand, but there's also some scooping possibilities, like if my opponent had a straight on bottom and not really anything on top, but all in is the wager. After account, it's approximately $300. The opponent to my direct left thinks for a while. He has a player left to act behind and makes the decision even more difficult. After about a minute of thinking, he eventually lets it go. The other opponent folds very quickly. The opponent to my direct left said he had pocket jacks and was just afraid of the possibility of having 10-8 just beat him on both boards. So we did get to steal the top board, and we win a decent PLO double board bomb pot. Well, this table had been playing a lot of them. It seemed to be their game of choice. So on another PLO double board bomb pot, I have queen, jack, 9, 4, rainbow. So some connecting cards in the upper range feels decent. Again, 6 players put $10 in the middle, and we're off to a top board of 8, 6, deuce, 2 diamonds, and a bottom board of jack, 9, 9, bink. We have a full house on that one. Having only one board and really nothing on the other one, I don't feel like leading out on this one, but I'll happily check call down. When I check, a early position player pots it for 60. There's 2 callers, it's back to me. I guess I could repot it here and just try to force out all the other hands and play this heads up where I have one board pretty much locked up. But I choose to just call. I don't see any cards I'm too worried about, and we can pretty happily get this money in by the river. So we're going 4 ways to 2 turn cards. Top one is the 5 of hearts. Doesn't really help my hand at all on that one. Bottom one is the king of spades. Brings backdoor spades. Queen 10 completes on that board. Going to continue my line of checking to an aggressor. This time the original aggressor checks and a later position player bets 250 and there's 1 caller. Now when it's back to me, I just decide I'm not really folding this hand. I have about 700 in my stack. The pot's massive. Hopefully we can get a three-way all-in and chop one of these opponents' full buy-ins. So I jammed for approximately $700. After a long tank from the flop aggressor, the player who made it 250, he jams all in. This puts the other player who put 250 in the middle into the tank. After a bit of thinking, he eventually lets it go. So we are going heads up to a pretty massive pot, and the rivers come the 7 of hearts on top and the 8 of hearts on bottom. Thinking I'm getting half this pot pretty handily, but no, I am getting scooped as my opponent is playing essentially just pocket kings. So a better full house on bottom and a single pair of kings on top will fully scoop me. These PLO double boards are extremely dangerous. Definitely gotta tread lightly on them. So we add on an additional $1,300 into the game for $2,400. Not my favorite result so far, but plenty of poker left to had. We switch tables, and ironically, we have another PLO double board bomb pot. This time, 8 players put $10 in the middle. I look down at ace, ace, 9, deuce, double suited. Honestly, a great hand in PLO. Anytime you get double suited aces, it's definitely one of the above average hands. On this one, the top board comes 9, 4, 3, 2 diamonds, and the bottom one comes jack, deuce, 3 rainbow. So we flop a pair on both boards. However, our pair of aces will be the one we're playing. I don't think just an overpair is good enough to lead out, especially into 8 people, especially from such an early position. So I check. It checks all the way to the cutoff, who puts a small bet, only 25, definitely looking like a pot builder. Button calls. I'm not going anywhere with aces. And the big blind calls as well. So we're going 4 ways to a turn card. On top, it's the deuce of spades. On bottom, deuce of clubs. So we actually make 9s and deuces and trip deuces. Our hand actually gets a lot better on both boards, and we're really not playing our aces anymore. So interesting development. Still think my hand's good as a check call, so I check. This time it checks all the way to the button, who puts out 80. Also not a full pot size bet, but having strong piece on both boards, we can't go anywhere. I make the call. The other 2 players fold, so we're heads up to 2 rivers, which is the 5 of diamonds and the 5 of hearts. So on top, diamonds complete. We technically improve to a 5 high straight. And on bottom, we have just trip deuces with an ace kicker. Again, probably gonna have to call a bet for my opponent, but this time he just checks. Thinking I'm guaranteed to win at least one board, as my ace blockers are very relevant in this hand. But my opponent somehow finds a way to have ace 4. So he gets straight, and we get just a straight on one board, and we get 3/4 on this one. Feels bad when we had trips and 2 pair. Get some kind of nasty river cards to just turn all of our equity into pretty much dust, to making this a losing hand. Alright, enough of this nonsense 4-card game. Let's play a 2-card game, and why not with the best 2 cards in the deck. I look down at pocket aces in the small blind, and with 4 limps to me, definitely have to size up. The PLO makes these players play wild. They'll call almost any sizing. So we're going to go a full 9x, $45 it will be. And clearly that's not even close to enough, as every limper calls, and we go 5 ways to a flop of 6, 6, 3, 2 hearts. Not having the ace of hearts I think is a very good thing. My opponents could easily have a random raggedy ace x of hearts. All the heart draws are live. I think it's unlikely I'm against a random 6, as it's very hard to flop trips, and you also would have had to call $45 pre with a random 6. So I'm going to size up here, charge the flush draws, charge the ace 5, ace 4 type hands that may feel like they want to continue, and all pocket pairs 7s plus will definitely call 1 or multiple bets. So I bet $160. Well, a later position player and the cutoff decide to both call. Not really liking that. Hopefully it will get a safe turn card, because the pot's definitely growing significantly. Turn is the king of spades. I actually very much like this card. If my opponent had king x of hearts, they are never folding at this point. Ace king, probably unlikely, as all these players did limp call. But we're going to make this hand a bet fold type strategy. Since we are 3 ways, I feel like a 6 would have pushed the action, at least at some frequency, on a flop where the only real hand you could be against is a flush draw, so they would definitely want to get more money in then, I believe. The player in middle position has only about $250 in his stack, so we're going to size up here. We're fine to get it all in with him, and hopefully it'll force the later position player out of the pot. If he continues, we probably just have to shut it down on the river. But either way, we're going to bet $350 Not going to play scared. Aces will be best a decent portion of the time. The middle position player goes all in for 250 pretty quickly, and then the cutoff goes into the tank. He's thinking for a bit of time. I'm not too happy with this because I can already feel it coming where he's just going to jam. When he does, I'm very upset.
It's over. Go home. Go.
Can't believe this guy has a 6. Aces are definitely cracked here because raising here with a draw doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you would still need to beat the all-in player. So thinking my opponent's relegated to just having to have it here to jam over 2 players that have shown a lot of interest in the hand, I just pretty quickly fold the aces, face up, disgusted. Middle position player had king 4 of hearts and the later position player had 6, 7 of spades. They agreed to run it twice and end up chopping as hearts complete on the first board, but definitely disappointed to have your aces cracked and lose a good sized pot. Well, we battled back slightly, winning a few small ones, very unnotable, but each small win helps build the stack a little bit. With 4 limps to me, I looked down a king-queen offsuit. I raised to $30 from the big blind. Only the first limp decides to call, so we're heads up to a flop of king 8-7 rainbow. Great to flop top pair, good kicker. Think I can bet small here. The board's somewhat neutral. My opponent has 7-8 in range, pocket 7s, pocket 8s, a lot more than I do. So, however, I'm the only one who should really ever have pocket kings here. So, somewhat of a neutral board, I would say. I down bet $25, and my opponent raises to 60. Maybe he knows that the middling cards are better for him. Maybe he flopped a set. Maybe he's full of it. Either way, king, queen offsuit's going to be too strong to just let it go to one small raise to $60. So I toss in the chips. The turn is the 6 of diamonds. Very much not my favorite, as 9-10 is probably the most obvious bluffing candidate my opponent could play this way. But he also has the betting lead, so when I check it to him to see what he wants to do, he decides to check it back. Alright, feeling pretty good. Feeling like I'm against that king, jack, king 10 type hand. River is the 5 of spades. Honestly, a card that I'm really not that unhappy with. If my opponent had 9-10, I doubt he would check back turn. If he had 8-9 turned into a random bluff, I doubt he would check back turn. So I'm actually going to go for some thin value here. I think king jack and king 10 will pay off a bet, at least at some frequency. This opponent specifically had shown the propensity to call relatively light, so pretty happy to go for some really thin value here. Also somewhat of a blocker bet. So I bet $100 and my opponent calls very quickly. Does not actually mean that I'm dead, so I just show my cards king queen and he has 7-5 offsuit. So, went for I guess a check raise bluff with bottom pair, and river's a 5. Easy game. Following that, I $10 button straddle. I have king jack of spades. With 2 limps, a later position player raises to $60, and there's 1 caller. Honestly, this probably should be a 3-bet. I'm on the button. I have a suited king. Feels pretty good. But in the moment, I think king jack suited plays fine multi-way. And the initial aggressor on this hand had really not playing too many hands at all. So, going to give him a little bit of credit on this one and just call. Well, the other 2 limpers call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop of 10-10 deuce, 2 hearts, 1 club. It checks to the pre-flop aggressor who bets $105, and this is just going to be a fold for me. Without even backdoor spades, I think that my hand's too weak to continue. Even if the turn is like a king, I could be reverse dominated. My opponent could just c-bet with ace king, turn a king, and then fully stack me, and so this one's just going to be a fold. I include this hand because like 6 or 7 hands happen just like this, $50 to $60 pre, just complete whiffs and just fold, and they add up. So this is just for realism, kind of how poker goes sometimes. Not going to show you all of them, just picked one at random. Here it is. But for a final hand of note, there's a $10 straddle with 2 limps. I look down at the old queen 3 of diamonds, and I'm clearly tilting because I can't win a hand today. I limped the $10 before the player to my direct left raises to $40. All 3 players call, so I'm going to call as well. We end up going 5 ways to jack 9 deuce 2 diamonds. Well, if you're going to play queen 3 of diamonds, this is as good as you could ever hope for. Backdoor straight draw, flush draw, 1 overcard. This feels almost as if a premium. When it checks to the preflop aggressor, he continues for $40. Very small sizing. There's 1 call. And now this is just going to be a jam from me. I just have to think for a second. The dealer did not see my cards. He pulled their money in. I have to stop him and say that I have cards and I'm thinking. Even though I pretty much know that I'm going to jam. I don't know if this particular action makes me look weaker or stronger. but it is what happened. I have about $320-ish in my stack, and 300 to win about 300 feels pretty good, especially with a flush draw overcard. I ship it all in. The pre-flop and turn aggressor decides to call, and the other player decides to fold. Ask him if he wants to run it twice. He says no, one time it will be. Alright, I will take a diamond on this time, please, dealer. Turn is the 4 of hearts, and river is the 10 of spades. Now I look at my hand for several minutes, knowing I have to have a straight of some sort. But no, I have queen high, and my opponent had ace-jack offsuit. So I had a ton of equity when I got the money in, just could not connect. Feels bad. Today is not my day. For this Saturday session, we're into the game for $2,400, out for $0. None are coming home with me. Across 4 hours, that equates to $600 an hour, or 120 big blinds an hour. I've been getting a lot of less than ideal runouts. You know, obviously, if my flush draw with the queen 3 completes, things go a little bit differently. If aces aren't cracked by 6-7, things go a little bit differently. If an opponent doesn't turn just pocket kings when I have jack 9 on jack 9-9 on a double board, things go differently. But today was not that day. Someday I'll get all the positive variance back going my way. You know, won't be able to miss a board. Will maybe even be on the right side of a cooler. But either way, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And there will always be more next week.